Welcome. Tonight we step quietly into the shadow of a palace. Let the modern world fall away. Leave behind the traffic, the screens, the sharpness of electric light. Close your eyes, or keep them half open, and drift into a place where time moved with the rhythm of the Nile, where the air was thick with incense, and where silence could save your life. We're not here to meet the Pharaoh, not at first. We're here to stand quietly in the background, to carry trays of wine, to light the lamps, to bow at the right moment, speak the right words, and never too many. You are about to enter the inner court of one of the most powerful palaces in the ancient world, but not as royalty, not even as a noble. You are a servant, trusted and completely replaceable. The air is sweet with perfume. The marble is polished until it gleams like water, and every footstep is watched. So take a breath, slow, deep, and easy. We'll walk the corridors of Egypt together tonight, through silks and secrets, feathers and fear, and always, always, softly, you wake before the sun, before the birds begin to stir, before the slaves begin grinding grain in the outer courtyard. The palace is still, cool in the early dark, its great stone walls breathing in the silence of another day not yet begun. You are one of Pharaoh's household servants. That title can mean many things. It could mean you sweep floors in the lesser halls, or that you sleep just outside the ruler's chamber, ready to run at a whisper. You're clean. You must be clean. You were bathed before bed, and you will be bathed again before you're allowed near anything sacred or royal. Servants are scrubbed with natron, a salty, coarse mineral that stings the skin but leaves no scent behind. You dress in linen so fine it feels like river water in your hands. No color, no decoration, only white for purity, for silence. The palace itself is a marvel. Tall columns shaped like papyrus stalks rise into the dim light, each painted long ago in blues and greens now faded by incense and sun. But you do not meet their gaze, not while you're working. The marble floors are swept twice a day. Your feet must not leave prints. Your breath must not disturb the stillness. You are trained in silence. It is the first rule. No clattering trays, no cleared throats, no opinion offered unless directly asked, and even then, briefly, carefully. You pass through 3 halls to reach Pharaoh's antechamber. Here, the ruler will wake. You do not wake Pharaoh, you wait. When the high steward gives the nod, you approach with other servants. One carries a basin of scented water, another a fresh linen robe. You hold the golden razor. Pharaoh does not shave himself. Each day, his head and face are smoothed clean. Not a hair is allowed to remain. To touch the Pharaoh's skin is to brush the edge of divinity. And yet, if you slip, if you cut too deep, you may not return. No one will yell. There will be no public punishment. You will simply disappear. It is understood. There are other servants waiting for your position, and the Pharaoh's comfort comes first. After bathing and grooming, the Pharaoh is dressed. Layered linens, gold bands, jeweled collars. A small servant dabs scented oil behind each ear. Another adjusts the headdress. You are not to look him in the eye, but you feel his presence like heat from the sun, oppressive, glowing, inescapable. Later in the morning, you move through the palace again, this time carrying trays, honeyed figs, roasted duck, barley bread. You serve with your eyes lowered. There is no chatting, no stealing glances at visiting nobles. Their secrets are not yours to know, but you know them anyway. You hear things, names, accusations, praise and punishments offered in the same breath. You are the invisible thread between conversations, and you are very careful not to pull it. There are stories among the servants of one who spoke out of turn and was assigned to the scorpion pits, of another who overheard too much and was found floating in the Nile. True? No one knows, but true enough to believe. Even when you sleep, if you sleep, you keep one ear open, because you never know who will call in the night, or why. Still, there are moments of peace. In the early afternoon, you might walk through the garden court, palms swaying, fish gliding in still pools. The scent of lotus flowers hovers in the heat. You are, after all, in the heart of the empire, a place most people will never glimpse, not even in dreams. And if you serve well, if you are quiet, clean, obedient, you may rise, not to greatness, not to glory, but to comfort. A better room, a softer robe, a master who trusts you just enough to speak a full sentence. That in Pharaoh's household is wealth, that is survival. Let's step out of the antechambers now. Leave behind the whispering marble, because in another wing of the palace another man is rising, not to serve but to rule. A former prisoner, a dream interpreter, a man named Joseph, and his story is just beginning. The story begins in silence, a dungeon, dark, damp, still. Joseph, son of Jacob, is imprisoned beneath the very palace we just explored, falsely accused, forgotten, and yet watched. The Egyptians believed dreams were messages, sometimes from gods, sometimes from the dead, and Joseph had a talent. He didn't just hear dreams, he understood them. One day, two royal officials, the cupbearer and the baker, find themselves in that same prison. They dream strange dreams. Joseph listens. He tells each man exactly what will happen. One will be restored, the other will not. His words come true. But Joseph is not rewarded. Not yet. Time passes. The palace continues above. Banquets, politics, servants brushing dust from painted floors. Until one night, Pharaoh himself dreams. Two dreams, really. 7 fat cows swallowed by 7 lean ones. 7 full heads of grain devoured by 7 withered stalks. No one can explain them, not the magicians, not the priests, not the scribes with golden pens and moonlit charts. And then the cupbearer remembers. There was a man, he says, a Hebrew in the dungeon. Joseph is summoned. Imagine that moment, from the cell to the throne room. Dirty robes exchanged for clean ones. Haircut, face shaved. You stand before Pharaoh, your fate hanging by a thread. The ruler of Egypt waits for your interpretation. And Joseph, quietly, calmly, says, I cannot interpret it, but God can. He listens and explains the dreams are one and the same. 7 years of plenty will come followed by 7 years of famine. He does not stop there. He advises Pharaoh, store grain now, appoint overseers, prepare. It's bold, it's unexpected. It's exactly what Pharaoh needs to hear. In one breath, Joseph is no longer a prisoner. He becomes vizier, second only to Pharaoh himself. His seal is pressed into clay. He is dressed in fine linen. A gold chain is placed around his neck. He is given a chariot, a new name, a wife from a noble family. The dreamer becomes the architect of Egypt's survival. But palace life is never simple. Joseph walks a tightrope, just like the servants before him. He must balance faith and diplomacy, Hebrew roots and Egyptian power. He must smile when it is wise to smile, speak when it is dangerous to speak. For 7 years, grain is gathered and stored, in cities, in silos, in sealed chambers beneath stone. Then the famine comes, and Joseph opens the storehouses. Egypt survives. And soon, people from far beyond its borders come seeking food. Among them, his brothers, the same brothers who once sold him into slavery. They do not recognize him, but he recognizes them. What follows is not revenge, not quite forgiveness either. It is testing. He speaks to them through an interpreter. He accuses, questions, embraces, weeps. He hides silver in their sacks. He hides love in silence. He does not reveal himself until he is sure they have changed. And when he does, his voice breaks. "I am Joseph," he says, and the brothers are silent. The story ends not with punishment, but with reunion. Joseph's father, Jacob, is brought to Egypt. The family is saved, and for a time peace reigns in the land of the Pharaohs. But Egypt never forgets, not truly. Foreigners are welcomed when useful, tolerated when wealthy, feared when they grow too many. And someday the memory of Joseph's kindness will fade. The next rulers may not know his name, but for now, his story stands. A quiet rise, a sharp mind, and the wisdom to speak softly, even when holding power. In our next section, we step out of story and into speculation. Who was Pharaoh in the time of Joseph, and who ruled Egypt when Moses was born? We turn now to the records of stone and scroll, to the pharaohs of the Bible, and the pharaohs of history. Now we drift from story to stone, from scrolls read aloud in candlelight to walls carved in limestone under the blazing Egyptian sun. The Bible gives us powerful stories, but not always names. When Joseph rises to power, the Pharaoh is simply Pharaoh. No birth name, no throne name, no dynasty mentioned. Likewise, in the book of Exodus, when Moses is placed in a basket among the reeds, when he's raised in the palace, when he challenges Pharaoh with the words, "Let my people go," no name is spoken. So who were these rulers? Historians and archaeologists have debated for centuries. Let's walk through the possibilities, slowly, gently. Joseph's story likely takes place during a time known as the Second Intermediate Period, a time when Hyksos rulers, foreigners from the Levant, ruled parts of northern Egypt. This might explain how a Hebrew prisoner could rise to such power. The Hyksos kings were not Egyptian by blood, but they respected Egyptian customs. They built temples. They prayed to Baal and Set. And they may have welcomed fellow foreigners with useful skills, like Joseph. One candidate often suggested is Kyn, a Hyksos ruler whose name appears on jars found as far as Canaan. But again, there is no certainty, only speculation. The sands of time blur even royal footprints. Later in Exodus, the Bible speaks of a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph. He sees the Israelites as a threat. He enslaves them. He commands the death of their infant sons. This points to a new regime, a ruler far removed from the Hyksos period. Many scholars suggest Seti I or his son Ramesses II, known as Ramesses the Great. Why? Because Exodus says the Israelites built the store cities of Pithom and Ramses, and these names match cities built or expanded under Ramesses. Ramesses II ruled for 66 years. He built vast temples, carved his name into monuments across Egypt. He led military campaigns into Canaan and signed the first known peace treaty in history. He was powerful, proud of Pharaoh, who might say, "Who is this God that I should obey him?" Still, others point to Thutmose III, called the Napoleon of Egypt for his campaigns, or Amenhotep II, who reigned during a time of strength and expansion. Each theory has its advocates. Each has gaps. Chronology is a delicate thing. The Egyptian king lists are long, and some names appear twice, once in life, once in legend. The Exodus itself, the plagues, the Red Sea, the wandering, has left little trace in the archaeological record. No collapsed armies, no parted waters. But that does not mean it didn't happen. It may mean we're looking in the wrong time, or that the Egyptians, who often recorded victories, simply chose not to inscribe a national humiliation. Even so, echoes remain. Ancient papyri speak of disasters, of blood-red rivers, of darkness, of death in the land. A document known as the Ipuwer Papyrus describes, "The river is blood, plague is throughout the land. The son of the high-born man is no longer recognized. Coincidence or memory? We cannot say." So who were the pharaohs of the Bible? We may never know for certain. Their names are lost, but their palaces may still stand, half buried in sand. Their faces may gaze from shattered statues, with eyes that once looked upon Joseph or Moses or neither. What matters is not just the names, but the patterns, power and fear, hospitality, then oppression, silence, then deliverance. These rhythms echo through Egypt's long, slow history. In our final segment, we step into the halls of the wealthy and powerful. What was life like for the pharaoh? When the wine was flowing, the fans were waving, and the elite whispered behind lotus-scented curtains, "Prepare to dine with the divine. Let us now climb the steps of the palace once more, not as servants, not as prisoners, but as honored guests." The air is warm. The walls glisten with golden light reflected from polished alabaster. Musicians hum quietly in the corner, tuning harps and plucking strings. The scent of myrrh and blue lotus hangs in the still air. This is a royal banquet. Noble guests arrive bathed and perfumed, their eyes rimmed with kohl. Wigs, yes, wigs are carefully curled and scented. Some are adorned with cone-shaped lumps of fat and fragrance that slowly melt through the evening, perfuming the air and darkening their hair. They do not sit at a single long table. Instead, low tables are scattered throughout the hall. Guests recline on cushions or stools, greeted by servants who offer cool water for washing hands and a dab of oil for the forehead. Fans wave, not too fast, not too slow, just enough to move the heat away and to show status. The food, rich, rare, and ritualized, the dishes are many, but they arrive slowly. Roasted ducks and geese stuffed with dates, fresh Nile fish wrapped in fig leaves, stews of lentils and garlic, bread shaped in sacred symbols, sweet cakes glazed with honey, figs and grapes piled high, and wine, red, strong, and poured liberally. Meat was rare for the common Egyptian, but not here. The elite dined on oxen, birds, and even imported delicacies from Canaan or Nubia. Everything was eaten with the fingers. Servants stood by with damp cloths and scented oils to clean hands between courses. As the sun dips below the horizon, the music deepens. A troupe of dancers enters, barefoot, adorned in sheer linen and gold. They move with elegance, trained from youth to captivate. Flutes join the harps. Tambourines gently mark the rhythm. Poetry is recited. A guest may lean close to whisper a verse. A priestess may interpret a dream. A scribe may sketch the evening's beauty onto a papyrus scroll. Behind carved wooden screens, gossip flows. Who favors whom? Who has fallen out of favor? Whose son is being groomed for command? And whose daughter is to be married into power? Even now, we do not forget the servants. They move silently among the guests, eyes cast down, hands practiced. They refill cups, adjust stools, catch falling crumbs, and anticipate desires not yet spoken. They do not eat the food. They do not share the wine, but they hear everything. A slip of the tongue, a sigh, a look too long. They carry trays and secrets both, and if one listens closely, there is always a story unfolding beneath the laughter. As the banquet ends, guests are helped to their feet. The music softens. A final gift is placed in each guest's hand, perhaps a trinket, or a lotus blossom, symbolizing rebirth and the fleeting nature of pleasure. Some stumble to their carriages. Others are carried by slaves. The Pharaoh may remain behind, or retreat silently through a hidden passage, and the palace returns to quiet. Servants gather the remnants, wipe the goblets, blow out the oil lamps. The floors are swept with soft reeds. The perfume fades. The night is over. But tomorrow the palace will stir again. Banquets will resume. Secrets will swirl. And those who serve will remember everything. So what was it really like to be a servant in Pharaoh's household? It was a balancing act. You lived at the center of the empire, but never fully belonged. You bathed gods, brushed marble, heard whispers you could never repeat. You served at banquets so lavish they blurred the line between feasting and worship, but you could vanish for a single mistake. And yet you knew Egypt better than the Pharaoh. You knew its hidden chambers, its morning rituals, its trembling fears. You were the silent thread that held the golden tapestry together, and when it frayed, you were the first to fall.